Self-limiting beliefs that make us cringe. We've been talking about them for quite a few videos here. In this part 6, it's a little bit intriguing to get some questions from people who are trying to establish a connection between these limiting self-beliefs and the self-limiting belief of I'm not worth it. Let's talk about it. Roll it. Welcome back to another video. We've been exploring this whole idea of self-limiting beliefs and how they relate to that moment where we feel like giving up on ourselves. And in these videos, we've been talking about self-limiting beliefs and how the 3 questions we can ask while going through that phase of giving up on ourselves can help alleviate the stress that we have on ourselves because of these self-limiting beliefs bringing out this negativity and this failure mentality. And as such, in this video, we're going to relate it back to self-worth. Because people always say, I'm not worth it. But they don't really say it always like that. It's usually in the forms of, I'm not worth this. Do people even care about me? Do they not see my self-worth? I'm not really worth it. Why are you wasting your time? Look, I can't achieve anything. I'm not worth your time. I've been trying my best to fix this relationship and clearly it's not working. Thus, I'm not worth it. Do people even care about me? I must not be worth anything to anybody at all. Now, I think we get the point here. We've all said some form of this at any one moment in our times when we felt like giving up. When we felt like we're not going to achieve what we were supposed to achieve, when failure mentality had settled in. The point is that 99.9% of the time, it is not that you're not worth anything. It is that you're creating the narrative of what you think people think of you. The self-limiting belief is really based on more than just this self-worth aspect. It's the perception that you have created in your mind based on what you think other people think of you. So clearly this can get very complicated, and the question really is, how do we work towards improving this issue instead of trying to make a quick cure forever? It's a work in progress kind of thing. Step 1 is asking yourself what has occurred, what has been occurring, why are your emotions the way they are, why is this thought coming into play? Step 2 is looking at it and saying, how high were the expectations on this one thing you're basing your self-worth on? If the expectations were realistic, then yeah, we got a situation here and we gotta work towards fixing it. But usually what tends to happen is the expectations were way too high. To add to that, the plan or the course of actions that we were gonna take on the tasks that we needed to do, well, they're not really that realistic, or we didn't follow through on them. Again, this begs the question of, is it really the self-worth that's suffering here, or is it your lack of action on any one thing in your life? Not just what you're trying to achieve right now. So task 3 here is to analyze these 2 questions we just asked ourselves and really put it into perspective of what are we actually doing versus the results that we're getting for more than just what we're trying to achieve. How are they all affecting that main achievement? What you will find is that in any given day, you're spending most of the time on a few or several things. The rest of the time, you're doing that normal need to do work, part of life stuff. But to put it in perspective, a lot of people will be dealing with some kind of project that they're trying to work on. Maybe it's their business that they're trying to start, their careers, or something else where they're in school trying to learn something. They're not learning it and they're not doing very well. Now in the rest of the day, well, they're dealing with other things such as friends, family, significant other, the relationship side of stuff, where they're spending a lot of time there and they're wondering, why am I having issues there as well? 9 times out of 10, when we're asking these line of questionings with people who are going through this dilemma, well, they're having issues with family members, with friends, with significant others. They're having these issues. They're having moments where they get upset and it brings them down to the point where they can't go back to being positive enough to actively complete the task they need to complete. They can't go back to seeing themselves being able to achieve. Because what's happening is all these other things like relationships are causing this negative influence to move into that side project that they're working on, that achievement they're trying to make. And of course, they start to feel like they need to give up. And when they start feeling like giving up, everything starts to be all based on their self-worth. I'm not good enough. I'm not worth it. By establishing these 3 tasks, what we do is we're able to look at what's happening right now and analyze what aspects of our lives are we putting too much emphasis on what other people think. Those family members, those friends, a significant other. And what we're doing is we're putting a level on there of what does it really matter. And that's usually based on how much the person matters to us. We put it on a level from 1 to 10, which generally people will put family members and friends at a lower level if they don't really care that much what they think about them. And then we see them put the people higher if they generally care what they think of them. An example of this is a client we had who was not achieving in their business. They kept failing and failing and failing at launching. It would never go the way they planned. They had this self-worth issue they were dealing with. The failure mentality had taken over. And when we went through this process, we realized that their dad was a big issue. Everybody, and I mean everybody in this person's lives, were at the bottom of that scale. And then of course, their dad was at the top. They wanted their dad to be proud of them. And their dad was never showing that. It was just that. So every other conversation they would have with their dad, well, it ended up always being negative, and it always ended up being placed, them taking ownership of it, in a horrible place called self-worth. They kept it in there, and they felt worthless because of that. Clearly their task was to go through the steps here and then go talk to their dad and be like, hey, this is how I feel. This is what I need from you, and I need to talk to you about it first, and then I don't want you to do it because I'm feeling this way. I want you to be honest with me. And guess what happened? Oh, you guessed it. The dad was like, I'm super proud of you. I just see you failing all the time. I'm giving you some of my thoughts, and yes, granted be, they're not the best positive thoughts, but they're realistic thoughts, and you are making it be something it's not. Of course I'm proud of you. That was how simple it was. That realization, well, now there's work to be done in order to work through those thoughts, but improvements were made. The self-worth subsided, and then all of a sudden we're moving forward, high speed, getting stuff done that needs to be done. Moral of the story, it doesn't matter what people think. Your level of self-worth is based on what you think, what you feel is the right amount for you. Nobody else. Nobody else. I could not have done everything I've done so far in my life unless I had my head straight on what I needed to achieve and really calculated my self-worth based on what I needed to achieve. I always said, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get it. I'm smart enough. I'm good enough. If that person can do it, I can do it. It was always about moving forward. And when self-worth is not at a level where we can keep moving forward, well, we're not gonna move forward. And yes, I've been there before. I've been at that level, and I had a good coach who got me through this in the same way. They helped me look at things in a way where it didn't matter what other people thought. It didn't matter what other people thought of me or what's possible. What mattered was what I thought of me and what I thought was possible. My name is Nikos Rentas. This is MentorsCoach.com. Hit that like button if you like what you see. Of course, hit the subscribe button to get your daily motivational idea to get you moving in the right direction. Of course, leave your comment below, leave your story. What did you like? What didn't you like? How can you apply it to what you experienced? And who knows? Somebody might be watching this, might read your comment, and you might help change.